Hello, Americans. This is Chad Hardy, and this is the Keeping It Real podcast. Today is July 22nd, 2020. And if this doesn't scare the hell out of you...
If we see continued noncompliance, they'll wind up facing misdemeanor charge, and DWP will step in and shut off their water and power.
Let me play that again for you.
If we see continued noncompliance, they'll wind up facing misdemeanor charge, and DWP will step in and shut off their water and power.
Comply with our quarantine, or we cut off your power and your water? It's time to keep it real. That's extortion, and clearly not a sensible option. Meanwhile, another couple is on house arrest wearing ankle bracelets, not because they refused to quarantine, but because they refused to sign a document allowing government access to their home anytime the government deems it necessary.
After testing positive, but without showing any symptoms, Elizabeth says the health department contacted her requesting she sign documents.
Pretty much it was that I agreed to comply to call the health department if I was to call the health department prior to leaving my house for any reason.
Elizabeth chose not to sign.
I had gotten a message from them, a text message that stated, because of your refusal to sign, this is going to be escalated and law enforcement will be involved.
On Thursday, the Hardin County Sheriff's Department greeted Elizabeth's husband, Isaiah, at their front door.
I open up the door, there's like 8 different people, 5 different cars. I'm like, what the heck's going on? This guy's in a suit with a mask. It's the health department guy, and they have 3 papers for us, for me, her, and my daughter.
The couple was ordered to wear ankle monitors. If they travel more than 200 feet, law enforcement will be notified.
We didn't rob a bank. We didn't rob a store. We didn't steal something. We didn't, hit and run. We didn't do anything wrong.
The couple says they never denied self-quarantining. They just didn't agree with the wording of the documents.
And that's exactly what the director of the public health department had told the judge, that I was refusing to self-quarantine because of this. And I'm like, that's not the case at all. I never said that.
This is what's happening in America and what needs to be talked about. Because as the government tightens its grip and our constitutional rights are being trampled on, the media continues to fan the flames on this split up of you and I, the American people. This divide is nearing the point of no return. As if all of us are suddenly being forced to pick a side. There's pure insanity in so many parts of America. At this hour, Portland continues to riot for the 56th straight day. Uniformed agents are straight picking people out of the streets and taking them to undisclosed locations. In Chicago over the weekend.
There's a new video that shows an organized attack against the police department that sent 18 officers to the hospital, one that has a broken eye socket, another a broken kneecap. Friday night here in Chicago, thousands of people marching towards a Christopher Columbus statue to tear it down when a group of rioters pops up a bunch of umbrellas to shield their identities. A person drops off all types of weapons, including frozen water bottles that were thrown at police, also rocks and explosives. CPD also says PVC pipe that was holding the banners was intentionally sharpened and thrown at police.
62 people were shot, 12 were killed. Is this the beginning of the end for America? Is there any way we can go back? I don't think so. Tonight we'll look at how we got here in this mess of coronavirus spreading like wildfire, exactly why we're on the verge of yet another shutdown and economic doom. How there are still more inconsistencies in counting these numbers of positive cases and the death toll. We'll take a real close look at where we're headed and where we're going to place blame today squarely where it belongs. Not all this media bullshit fear you've been fed, but the real numbers, real timelines, verified sources. Then make up your own mind and speak up. Because I'm afraid if it's not already too late to save our country, it's becoming catastrophically close. Last Saturday, 2 police officers were ambushed in Texas. The next day, the news briefly reported on it. The following Sunday, the daughter of one of the slain officers posted on Twitter. There were several photos of her and her father, him wearing his uniform. It was a heartfelt memoriam. That would bring a tear to most. She ended it with a hashtag of Blue Lives Matter. What happened next will shock you. And I'll read what she wrote. and the reactions it brought because it needs to be talked about. This new kind of online mob, which bullies people who have a difference of opinion, is out of control. Recently, author Robbie Suave wrote an interesting book called Panic Attack: Young Radicals in the Age of Trump. And he says that many people online who have some different views of the protesters or rioters are receiving a verbal backlash, the likes of which we've never seen before.
Because he has some different views from the protesters, he must be a racist.
That kind of narrow-minded thinking is ridiculous. And these activists have no problem shouting their viewpoints, but don't you dare voice your opinion.
Activists who don't want there to be any criticism that says, if you disagree with me, not only should you have no right to speak, but you're harming me. You're making me unsafe.
That's absolutely absurd, but appears to be the mindset. And that needs to be talked about. Back to the police ambush in Texas. Last Saturday, 2 police officers were ambushed in Texas. The next day, the news briefly reported on it. The following day, Sunday, the daughter of one of the slain officers posted on Twitter, "Words cannot describe the pain I'm in, but I'm glad my dad is at peace. You were an amazing man, and anyone who ever came across you knew that. I'm going to miss you so much. You died doing what you loved most. You died a hero. I love you, Daddy. See you soon." Hashtag Blue Lives Matter. And here comes the reactions. And I'm going to do my best to edit these out. What shoes he got in his casket, oink oink. Another comes in. Girl, F you and your daddy. Blue lives don't exist. Another comes in. F your daddy. Another comes in. F your daddy. Hashtag BLM. Blue lives don't exist. F yo homie, he's dead. Another comes in. Oh my God, ask your dad how he's been doing. Oh wait, you can't. Another one. Aw, boo-hoo, cry about it anyways. Another comes in. Girl, you couldn't have mourned your dad in peace without having to use that racist-ass hashtag. Another comes in. F you and your daddy. F a cop. Blue lives don't exist. Another comes in. Blue lives don't exist. F your home. Are you kidding me with this right now? 14-year-old? When in this country did it become okay to basically tear apart a young teen girl online or in any other setting ever? And as adults sit back and let that happen. I don't ever remember a time in this country where anyone thought that was okay. Anyone. Regardless of your color, nationality, origin, religion, thought process, boxers, briefs, granny panties, or thongs, I don't care. We as a society in general have never, ever allowed people to attack our children, any children, like that. Not now, not ever. And many of you are now probably asking, what murders are you talking about? My point exactly. It was buried 4 pages deep in the news cycle. The story of the girl on Twitter, barely mentioned. No one took to the streets. No businesses were looted. No buildings burned down. 2 officers, their names unknown to everyone. Were they not just as brutally murdered as George Floyd? Out of cold blood? Ambushed? No news coverage. None. Why? Because this does not fit the narrative of the mainstream media. You won't hear about it, and you certainly won't talk about it. Black lives matter. Black lives matter too. Yes, absolutely they do. And there has not been equal treatment in this country, and racism does exist. It doesn't exist around me because I don't allow it to. I shut it down. I just don't buy into it. Morgan Freeman says it best.
Black History Month you find ridiculous. Why? You're going to relegate my history to a month? Oh, come on. What do you do with yours? Which month is White History Month? Come on, tell me. I'm Jewish. Okay. Which month is Jewish History Month? There isn't one. Oh, why not? Yeah. Do you want one? No. I don't either. I don't want a Black History Month. Black history is American history. How are we going to get rid of racism? Stop talking about it. Stop talking about it. I'm going to stop calling you a white man. And I'm going to ask you to stop calling me a black man. I know you as Mike Wallace. You know me as Morgan Freeman.
Is it really that simple? I don't know about you, but that sounds pretty damn simple.
I'm going to stop calling you a white man. And I'm going to ask you to stop calling me a black man.
Let's talk about it. Let's keep it real. We are all Americans. When did we allow others, especially our totally asinine media and clearly corrupt government, to divide us like this? Because what I saw this week shook me. Shook me to the core. Struck a nerve. And sadness and anger came over me like a wave. And so many people are feeling the exact same thing. This idea that I or anyone else has some different views than the protesters or the rioters makes someone a racist is absolute bullshit. That argument is ridiculous, but people are afraid to stand up and say anything. We're afraid to challenge them because why? Because nobody wants to be bullied online, and nobody wants to be called, or even worse, labeled a racist. So you're quiet. You don't say anything. No, I do not know what it's like to be a victim of racism. Yes, I've lived a very lucky life, and I've been very fortunate. I don't consider it privilege, but I've been lucky to have lived the life that I live. But I should still be able to point out blatant inconsistencies on any issue I see fit. How does that make someone racist? The solution is to challenge these online bullies and mobs. There is a time to speak up, America, and that time is now. As violence escalates to heights never seen in some of America's largest cities, you've been hearing calls to defund the police. That's nonsense, especially at this point. If you really want to put a dent in police corruption and abuse of power, well then take a deep breath and gain some knowledge here. Because if you really want to change the culture of the abuse of power by police officers in this country, the answer is not to defund the police. The answer is to defund the police unions. And if that pisses off the police, well, too damn bad. Because police unions have allowed bad people who have happened to be police officers to continue to be police officers after they've clearly shown an abuse of power, sometimes multiple times. Bradley Belko is a reporter who covers police abuse.
The problem is when you have cops who are repeat offenders and the system doesn't eject those cops but protects them.
Prime example numero uno, the cop who killed George Floyd.
Had 18 complaints against him, but only faced discipline for 2.
18 times, disciplined only for 2, protected by, you guessed it, the union.
The job of a union is to protect the interest of its members, really at any cost.
How can you get rid of bad cops when union rules keep them from being fired?
The union has negotiated a contract that makes it nearly impossible to fire them.
In no way am I anti-union. My dad was a union man his whole life, electrician. I am IBEW proud through and through, and many of my friends and family are union. But this is different, and here's why.
It's particularly different in the public sector where the people who want to form a union are armed and are entrusted with the power to arrest and detain and kill.
Some of you are saying, well, what about the police? Why should they all be punished because of a few bad cops?
Nobody talks about all the police officers that were killed in the last week.
And I agree. The media is not covering all the police being killed, and it's downright shameful. Their jobs are extremely dangerous.
One woman hurling a Molotov cocktail at their police van.
These crowds are throwing bricks at them.
But here's what Larry Cosme, who runs America's biggest law enforcement association, had to say when asked why cops need unions.
The unions are there for a reason. If you don't have these protections, then no one's going to want to be a police officer.
And in all reality, that's not true.
There are places all over this country where there are no police unions. There's no shortage of police officers in those areas.
A new study found that after unionization, then officers were 40% more likely to use violence.
99.9% of the time, police officers do an outstanding job. When I was working, everybody was very professional. If I saw something out of the ordinary, I would call somebody out on it. The police need to police themselves.
Hell yes, they should. But the problem is, they don't. Police brutality keeps happening. They don't lose their jobs. Half the time, they aren't even disciplined.
No, they are disciplined. You also have to protect these men and women also. They have rights, too.
Of course they do. But 18 times and disciplined only twice? How many disciplines do they get?
The union has negotiated a contract that makes it nearly impossible to fire them.
And I know some damn good cops. I am friends with some damn good cops. And I am related to some damn good cops. In Camden, New Jersey, police union corruption got so bad that they got rid of the entire union and most of the entire police force. And guess what happened? When the unionized police department was dissolved, crime actually went down.
They did get better for the community, but if you look at the statistics of the department, 65 to 70% of the officers are now gone from that department.
Well, I think that's great news. I think if it's better for the community, it's